Welcome to Unleashing the Power of People, Reimagining the Workplace. I'm your host, Kim Ratcliffe, and we are thrilled to have you listening from wherever you work. In this podcast, we'll explore what inspires innovators and leaders in people experience. Let's reimagine the workplace together and get this podcast started. Welcome back to our latest EXMI Podcast episode about AI, here, there, and everywhere. I am so excited to have two special guests with me here today, co-founder and chief Emily Douglas-McNab, as well as data scientist Minnie Poon. Welcome to both of you. And I am going to give a couple of brief intros so that folks know more about you and ask you to fill in any gaps for things that I might have left out. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds great.
Beautiful, beautiful. So as I mentioned, Emily is a co-founder and chief at EXMI, and she is a subject matter expert on many things, and one of them is the application of AI in both education and the business world. And I know, Emily, we've had a lot of conversations about how no one is really talking about the operational piece and how, as a leader, you can be more efficient in your uses of AI. We've got lots of folks in education talking about applications in the classroom, but we all know that leadership and finding that efficiency can really drive bigger change. And that's one of the things that I know you've been focused on in your AI journey. Let me give a little bit more background, and then I'll give you the mic to tell us a little bit more about yourself. So Emily does have 20 plus years of experience working with public and private entities on topics related to strategy, human resources, organizational development, marketing and communications, workforce system redesign, compensation, and so much more. Emily writes. She is a speaker, frequently requested speaker. She also consults and teaches nationally on topics related to total rewards, innovative staffing, artificial intelligence, and the future of work. She also serves as a selected peer reviewer for the Journal of Total Rewards, a cross-industry peer-reviewed publication by World at Work. And she evaluates research-based insights that help organizations across all sectors to attract, engage, and retain employees through data-driven total rewards strategies. She serves on the advisory board for the Masters in Human Resources Management program at The Ohio State University Fisher College of Business. She is also a senior lecturer at The Ohio State University Fisher College of Business, where she teaches total rewards at the graduate level and strategic staffing in the undergraduate program. Welcome, Emily. What did I miss?
You did not miss anything. That was very complete.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Now, one thing that I will just add here, Emily has her Master of Human Resources, her Master of Business Administration, and her Master of Education in Instructional Design, as well as multiple certifications, including the Professional Human Capital Leader in Education, or PHCLE, the Senior Professional in Human Resources, or SPHR, her Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, and the Compensation Analyst Credential. So let's move on to Minnie. Minnie is a data scientist with Experience Management Institute, and she is, as you would expect of a data scientist, a data-driven professional who specializes in data analysis, data visualization, AI, predictive modeling, and strategic HR analytics. Minnie has expertise in compensation analysis, as well as survey design, workforce planning, helping organizations to make informed decisions in staffing, budgeting, and total rewards strategies. And as a data scientist at EXMI, she analyzes very large data sets. She conducts compensation benchmarking studies. She develops predictive models to support school districts, government agencies, and educational associations. and she works with both quantitative and qualitative data sets and conducts research to uncover insights that drive organizational planning and decision making. Previously to her work at EXMI, while working at Huntington Bank, Minnie built a predictive model for small business administration portfolios, analyzing 3 million rows of data and applying machine learning techniques to assess default risk with high accuracy. That is a mouthful. She also worked at Greif, developing compensation resources and tools to support leadership in data-driven pay decisions. She has contributed to academic research, business analytics, and instructional support as a research assistant and a lecturer at McMaster University. With a background in accounting and financial analysis, she also has expertise in payroll, bank reconciliations, and financial reporting. Her experience in data science, HR analytics and strategy, and AI all allowed her to provide insightful and data-backed recommendations to optimize workforce and human capital decisions across many different types of workplaces. Minnie, in terms of certifications, has the compensation analyst credential, and she has her Master of Human Resource Management and a Master of Applied Economics. Minnie, what did I miss about you? Anything else that you would like to share?
That was very comprehensive. One thing that I would like to share, I've currently been also conducting some AI research with at the Ohio State University. So we're focusing on AI applications and specifics to business and workforce analytics, exploring AI-driven solutions for entrepreneurship, education, and decision making. So that's something else that I've been working on and doing research with a professor at the Fisher College of Business. So that's also something else to add.
So, in summary, for each of you, a few things. You've been doing a few things, right? Just slightly busy.
Just a
Well,
little bit.
and that's one of the reasons why we had a devil of a time getting things scheduled for this session. And I'm
Oh,
going to say maybe it's like six times the charm, but it's
yeah.
all because you of everything that you've both been involved in over the last couple of months. So I'm so excited that we are here to talk about artificial intelligence and AI essentials in PK-12 education, this new course that you're in the midst of teaching. We've got a new cohort coming up with the course. I think we'll talk about that, kind of in the midst of answering the questions that you are prepared to answer here as we move forward. And so, Emily, I have the first question for you, which is why in the world did you decide to create an AI course for pre-K-12 HR leaders in education?
So it's a great question. One of the things that I thought was really fascinating is we've seen more and more people in the business side of the world talking about AI. And so, I mean, just hundreds of articles all over the internet. We're using it in banking, we're using it in healthcare, we're using it in the financial sector, and all the cool ways that people have been using it. You're seeing people in the art industry talking about how excited they are, but then other people talking about how nervous they are that AI can replicate music and pieces of art and all kinds of things. So I've been seeing all these people talk about it in other sectors. And then when you look into the education sector, the conversations are about student use. And a lot of people's conversation is, should we let students use it or not? From my higher ed experience currently, that's the question is, should we be letting students use it or not for class? And how do we know if somebody's used it and they're cheating? Like it's based on those kind of conversations. And then you see some conversations around like classroom teacher use. So how a teacher in a K-12 classroom may be collecting data and using that to differentiate or personalize or individualize instruction. So you've seen a little bit of that. But what I just couldn't believe is that you're not seeing anybody talk about how people in any other position could be using this. And that's truly where the other sectors have started and really advanced is they're trying to figure out how to do more with less and how to think through the appropriate combination of human skills with artificial intelligence skills and like what's the good mix for them there. But we don't see anybody in the K-12 side talking about that. And I just thought that was weird. So the more that we talk to people, many talk to people, I've talked to people, we've learned more about AI. What we realize is that there are a lot of people who are very scared of the use of AI in education. Really, truly in the United States, it's a scary thing. A lot of people think of it as a scary thing. So we figured that the best way to get over the fear was to see if there were people willing and excited to learn about it and design some learning around it that was not about the history of AI as much, but more about like, how do you really use it in your daily work? And that's where it all came from, is how to make something that's application based.
So it's really, we know it's not a replacement for humans, but it can speed up the work. And I know we've talked a little bit about how it can be a partner for us at work, which is really intriguing to me too. Minnie, I'm curious about your perspective on this, being very recently a graduate student, and continuing to do, postgraduate work related to AI, and also your angle on this from a much more technical perspective than certainly I have, as a data scientist. What would you add to Emily's response?
Yeah, so when I think about it from just going back a few years when I was still in school and I didn't have, or AI and generative AI was not as popular as it is now, and the tools weren't as accessible as they are now, to when I had my last semester and AI and generative AI was accessible, it made a ton of difference. I mean, just the fact that you get this time given back to you to do some other things, time given back to you that could just allow you to have create oh, and this kind of actually goes into our use cases scenario, which I know we'll talk about later, but there's so many different ways that we were able, or I was able to use it in school, to help me just go through my coursework and my research and all the different things. So I think that was the biggest thing. It optimized time. It was made my life and my work and how I was doing everything much more efficient. So I think not only does it benefit you in school and or me as a student or as I was a student in school, but it helps in every aspect. So in HR, um, in finance, in banking, as Emily said, so many different ways. It's very beneficial and very much gives us the time back. I think from more of a technical standpoint, AI has been around since the 50s. So we're only seeing kind of that tail end of what people have been, engineers, data scientists, all these people have been doing and working on since the 50s, right? So we're just now kind of exploring how this is beneficial to us, but this has been something in the making for decades. And so it's exciting to see. And of course, I haven't seen it from all the way back in the 50s, but we've definitely studied and read about how it came to be. And I just think we're just now understanding what it is, but there's so much history behind it that is another reason why we wanted to create this course, just to also educate people about, generative AI is just one little thing out of all the different um, different things that AI really is, right? So I think that's one of the other reasons that we decided that this is something people should also learn.
So the generative AI is really just kind of like another planet in this wide new universe that
It's
we're.
like a subset
Yeah.
of just machine learning. So there's AI, and then that kind of brings us into machine learning. And then within machine learning, there's different subsets within. So we have a graphic that makes it much more visually understandable. But that's just one thing that we also wanted to help others understand is generative AI is just something so small within the whole world of what AI is.
So you've dipped a toe into this, framework that we have of the 8 use cases for AI. Tell us more about the the framework and those use cases. I know we're going to do a few AI episodes here. This is really just the first one, but can you give us a little bit more insight into at least a starting point with those use cases? And I will say before you answer that question, for our listeners, we are going to include that visual in the show notes so you can refer to that.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think how this came to be was really for myself, I had, deep learning from AI experts in higher ed. I studied it. And then also being able to work alongside Emily and her understanding of education and all of that, we kind of came together and we were like, oh, wow, there are so many use cases that could come out of this. And we just wanted to create 8 different use cases for that were more practical. So people can really see these and be like, oh, I can see myself doing this on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's kind of how the idea of use cases was born.
Yeah, and I think the piece that was fascinating for me, because Minnie's got like that deep technical side, right? So I'm trying to catch up and learn. I'm the non-techie side of Minnie, right? So for me, I was like, how can I use this, right? So from a generative AI standpoint, where most people start is asking it questions and having it generate text, right? But the more that I read and the more that I used it and the more that I saw people doing like AI hacks and prompting hacks, I was like, oh, you could do that too. I never thought of that. Oh, and you can do that. And oh, you can feed it data sets. And oh, you could build like a workflow in it. So the more that we talked, the more that I learned and realized all of the different ways that you could really use it. And I think that's one of the hardest parts for people is because they've never had to think like this. So you have to learn how to think differently. So the use cases, the idea is it's kind of like a cheat code, right? So it's saying to you, here's 8 ways you could use this. You may have never thought of 5 of these, but we're going to show you how to do some of these in different ways with different prompting techniques that may make your work easier. So it was really meant to be not only a teaching tool, but again, a time-saving tool and helping people get up to speed faster on all of the different ways that you can use generative AI.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think one thing to add is, and just as a reminder, is that this is literally only for generative AI. There's so many different, as I just mentioned, there's so many different sections within AI that we're not even touching. So it's really just helping us and helping give this visualization of like a clearer sense of what is possible using generative AI.
That makes sense. So you've touched on the content creation use case. You've touched on the kind of the research and discovery. I'm wondering, when you are having conversations with folks leading HR out in school districts and other educational organizations like state departments of ed, other education orgs across the country. What do they really need the most from AI? How can it benefit them?
Oh, so many things. I think, in the conversations that I've had as of late, one of the things we do a lot are trainings, right? Or PD with people. And I've started to add in and Minnie adds in, and we've all as our team have started to add in into our slide decks and conversations with people like, hey, here's a quick, you could hack that with AI, right? Like, here's a quick thing you could do with AI. It's really cool. And the response back from people is, oh, I've not really played with that yet. Or the majority of people, right? Like, oh, it's a little scary. I don't know. Like some people in my district are a little, we're just afraid of it. We've not really opened it up. I don't have a paid account. I've never taken a class. And so I think some of the biggest ways that people could truly start to use it in a very quick way. everybody's got lots of emails to respond to and write responses to. I think one of the easiest ways is to ask it to help you streamline and write like professional, engaging responses to emails. And I know that sounds like a silly thing, but you can say to it like, hey, proofread this email. Can you help me write this in a different tone? Can you tell me your views of this email? Like if you're the person who writes that email that you shouldn't send for 24 hours and you need to rewrite it into a non-threatening, get yourself in trouble email, like it can help you do that and think through that. So I think that for me is probably one of the biggest places. The other place that I tell people all the time to use it and how to use it, is that it's really great at reviewing documents and reviewing and taking information and putting it into bite-sized chunks for people. So taking a collective bargaining agreement, right? That's publicly available on a website. You say to it, hey, can you review this document? And can you give me a summary of the total rewards offerings in it that I should be communicating to a teacher? Or, hey, can you share with me 10 important things from this collective bargaining agreement that you believe we should be communicating to teachers in new staff onboarding, right? So it can help you distill down hundreds. Sometimes CBAs are hundreds of pages long, right? 200, 300 pages long. It can help you distill down huge amounts of qualitative information into bite-sized chunks for people. And not that a human couldn't do that. A human can write the emails too, and a human can sit and read that. But if it allows you to make that be faster and cut down half the time, which really it would be cuts the timing into what, Minnie? 1/50th of the time it probably would have taken before. And it allows you to proof it and double check the content. That's huge. That's a huge win. I mean, I just don't know why. I get that it's scary, but for those types of things, I just think people are going to have to realize that there are going to be people who use it and do that kind of stuff, and there are going to be people who don't. What do you think, Minnie? What are some of the ways you could see somebody in HR or in school district or anything using it from a use case standpoint, example wise?
Yeah, I think one of the use cases we had was research and discovery. So if there's trends from not only qualitative but quantitative standpoint, understanding that. I wanted to also add, you said something about how it's so fast, right? And that's what people think. I mean, it is, right? It is really quick. It's very efficient. But another thing I think it's really helpful for, it's also in depth. Like it could be about depth too, right? So if we're asking the right questions and asking the right follow-up questions, whatever it is, AI can help surface those ideas and insights that you didn't even know you needed. So it's not just about the speed, it can also be about depth. And I think that's really important for people to understand because a lot of the times it's just, oh, I'm going to save time with it. But no, you can really get even more than you were expecting if you ask the right questions.
Yeah, and that's a great example, Minnie. I was on the phone with a chief of HR from a district. And we had said like, hey, I showed her, I said, look, load your CBA in there and ask it to do a summary of total rewards. And they're like, we're doing this right now. There's a team of us of 7 people who are meeting, and we've had like 6 or 7 meetings, and we're going through and we're writing this into a document. So hold it in there, had it go through. And the first time it did like a high level summary. So, and they were like, oh, well, some of the stuff we've includes a little bit more detailed. So to Minnie's depth piece, right? So we asked it again, can you do this again? Specifically, can you identify total rewards offerings for teachers? And can you write the description of those to be more in depth than you currently have? And can you cite the page numbers as to where you found this information? And it produces it. And she was like, I cannot believe we have spent with like 6 or 7 people, 10 hours doing this. And it literally just produced that in like 4 seconds. I said, right, but you could still have your meeting with your people and add to this, or still have your meeting and review it and double check that it's right. But like Minnie said, the depth of what it can do in a very quick manner is pretty crazy. I think the other one that we've seen that Minnie and I have been talking with people about, and I actually used it in my class at Ohio State with my undergrad students. So I teach strategic staffing. So one of the things they needed to do for their final project, which I switched kind of at the end because they were like, look, we want to do a project that's application based. Like help us do something in class that we would actually do when we go get our first job. I said, cool. Let's co-design this activity together. So we talked all through what would go in a recruitment plan. We used generative AI to give us long lists of things. I said, cool, here's all the stuff that could be in a recruitment plan. Here are the pieces I want you to do from a learning, teaching aspect. So we identified it, pared it down. So they all had an organization assigned to them, from businesses to nonprofits to city government. And they had to create a recruitment plan and a recruitment ad for a very specific position in a very specific location. So they fed out all this information and had it produce full recruitment plans, and it created graphic images, which were mind-blowing. Amazing. I was sending pictures to Minnie in class. Look at what they did.
I was impressed.
It was pretty cool. And so what we know is that that's for school districts is something that's a continuing thing, right? We have to be thinking about recruitment every day. And so if you're using AI correctly, one of those tasks that has become an everyday thing because we have shortages in so many places, we don't always have time to create really engaging social content or customized ads for how should we be recruiting teachers versus principals versus support staff versus bus drivers. Like, what a great way to use AI, generative AI, is to help you cut through all of that. So that's like the ideation and creativity use case piece. What else, Minnie? That would fit into the
Ideation, yeah, what you're saying, content creation
and creativity aspects. It can, even if you ask it to pull certain data, it could be doing some research, and then helping you like make decisions about where one should be recruiting, right? So there's that strategy aspect to it too. Yeah, it's just pretty cool.
So I know that with we've hit on a few of the use cases. In future episodes, we are going to explore a little bit more with the ideation and innovation, as well as workflow and automation and adaptive learning and personalization. So stay tuned for that. We want you to come back for a future episode. We'll talk more about those. So I know, Emily, you've provided, your perspective on like what you're hearing from, the field around smart AI uses and some of the things that you've guided folks to be doing to make more efficient use of time. And Minnie, you've spoken to it from the depth perspective, having that deeper technical knowledge. I'd like to send this next question to you, knowing that you have that technical awareness as a data scientist and coming into these conversations with AI implementers who want practical solutions, but they're not trained in coding or data modeling. What are some of the biggest insights that you like to share with them to draw out those aha moments?
That's a great question. So I think this one for me, it's funny because people think, oh, a data scientist, it's super technical, which I'm not saying it's not, but honestly, AI is really just pattern recognition. And that's really essentially what it is, right? It's input and you're sending your message in and then you get your output. And it's not this like scary or mysterious thing. And I don't think it should be, especially with how we can just search things up and there's so many courses and we have a course. Um, but really, it's just learning from data. And you really, as I mentioned before, what you get out of it depends on what you feed into it. So we have our own prompting frameworks that we've created. Not sure if we're adding them here, but we have our own. And so it helps guide learners through how to write your prompt. So depending on what you want to get out of it and what your use case is, you can pick one of these prompt frameworks and it'll help guide you through how to write these prompts. And it makes it much easier. It guides you through it so you don't have to be confused and or intimidated by asking the questions, right? So I think it shouldn't be a scary thing, and I hope it doesn't scare anyone. And the fact that you're listening in is a good thing because that means you're interested. But we also have a lot of our own kind of frameworks, AI use cases that I think are also really, really helpful.
Thank you, Minnie. So I'm going to bring us to our closing question. This is really part A of the closing question. We like to finish off all of our episodes with this question because it's really rooted in EXMI's mission and vision. And it's especially important in this case because we have to prioritize the humans in the space when we're talking about AI as we look forward to fulfill the promise of AI in the human workplace. So, through your work with AI, how are you reimagining the future of work to unleash the power of people? And Minnie, let's start that with you and have Emily finish us off there.
That's a great question. And I think one thing I forgot to mention is how important it is to use AI, but also use it with human in the loop and human intelligence together. And so, as we mentioned at the beginning, it's not a tool that's going to replace you or us, but will help enhance our efficiency at work. And I think we've only kind of touched on generative AI, but in the future, and actually it's happening right now, I'm sure you've heard of AI agents, agentic AI, and I really think this is going to be the future of what work is going to look like because these are going to be tools where, or agentic AI and AI agents are going to be where we don't even need to be here typing prompts, right? It's going to be a more hands-off approach and doing things on the back end where when you're not even there. So when we're not working, it's going to be working for us. So I think that's going to be the future, and that's how I see it.
So, Minnie, are you saying that Minnie's Minions is not just your fantasy football team? You're really going to have minions. Is this true?
I do have an AI mini avatar right now. There might be some more coming. We'll have to see.
Emily, what are your thoughts on this question about reimagining the future of work to unleash the power of people in this new AI reality?
I would say since Minnie brought you that side, I'd bring my piece. So as you know, for people who don't know me, but I'm all about current research and polling and surveys and things and like what that looks like. And we know from some recent data from Pew that was collected at the end of 2024, but really only published here in the last month or so, it tells us that we know that 52% of workers are worried about how AI may impact the workplace. So as people managers, we have to be very mindful that this is scary to people, right? So, and what's being communicated is, kind of the possibly the doomsday piece, right? Like, oh my gosh, it's going to take everybody's job. And what does that look like? So what we do know is that what it should look like, if you're doing it right, is upskilling and reskilling your current staff to be able to do all of those things, right? So instead of it being like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared it's going to take my job, it really should be twisted to how do we use this and how do we teach people how to use it so they're better at their job? And yes, there may be certain portions of people's jobs that get taken by an agent, right? Like, which is what Minnie mentioned. So, meaning if you've never heard of the agentic AI piece, meaning essentially like an app or a software program that runs in the background and does certain things for you. So yes, that's a possibility. But if we turn around and ignore this whole upskilling, reskilling piece, we're going to have serious problems. And if you look at history, and as a millennial, I will say Minnie is not one, but growing up kind of in the pre-tech to the tech emergence phase, right? So, in my lifetime, we watched rotary dial phones to no rotary dial phones to people having computers in their homes, to people having it at work, to people having them at home, and all of the software and how that has all come about, to the movements of social media and cell phones and smartphones and all of those things kind of come in this line, right? And what we know is that we lost people at every step of those stages at work, right? We lost people when we started using computers because there were people who refused to use them or people who were never taught how to use them. And we lost people in the workforce that way. Social media, for example, that became a thing. I was one of the big people from the beginning who was like, we need to be using social media to recruit people and think about all the applications that we can use them in an organization. Some of that was by nature of just where, when it surfaced, where I was at in my socializing in college and things. But we started to lose people, right? We've lost people there. When you look at all the software programs and all the things you can do, there are many people in the workforce who can't use Excel and Word and all of those, those different programs. We've lost people there. AI is bigger than that. It's all of those things, in my opinion, added together. And if we don't do this and approach it appropriately, we're going to lose people in this. And so it will become the people with AI versus the people who don't use AI, right? So it's not, it's not, I don't know. It doesn't have to be that hard, right? So we can all start to learn together. And from other research, we know there was some really cool stuff that came out of Harvard Business Review in the last 2 months that shows an individual who is trained in how to use generative AI, they are more productive as an individual person with generative AI than an entire team of people from a productivity standpoint. That is crazy. Like, just think about that. One person with generative AI is more productive and produces higher quality work than a team of people. So again, back to the human element. If we're not upskilling and reskilling people to be able to do that, we're going to leave people behind. And that is not unleashing the power of people, Kim, right? So I think as we move through this, we just have to know that organizations are going to have to start to make a very mindful choice. And it's either be part of the movement or choose to not be part of the movement. And those who choose to not be part of the movement are going to find themselves in a place they probably don't want to be.
And we have to take responsibility for, making it a safe space to learn. And I know that's been a
100%.
priority for you, and it's part of what, prompted EXMI to really want to support this process of helping folks to learn more about AI in conjunction with, American Association for
Yeah.
School.
And that was a big part of the design of that whole thing, right? Which was, and as Minnie and I sat and tried to figure out, like, where do you start? The big piece of it was like, you don't have to have prior knowledge in AI. And people think, there are many people who still think like, you've got to be able to code. No, you don't. You don't have to be able to code. You don't have to be an expert in Excel. While work experience is great, you don't even have to have work experience necessarily to use it. So we've tried to build the course to be, like I said, to have no prior knowledge of AI and come in, learn what you need to learn. But also we've set it up to be very much built on a growth mindset, right? So it's people in a cohort. We talk about our experiences during an in-person virtual class. And, we're all going to come together and understand, like, this for some people may be challenging. It's a different way to think. It may feel a little scary, but let's all learn it together and, problem solve together versus doing it separately by yourself or not at all.
I love that. So I did say that that was part A for the closing question. Part B is going to be a little bit spontaneous. We have been asking in our recent podcast episodes folks to help us to build our playlist. So when we think about AI and bringing it together with human intelligence, what songs come to mind for the two of you? I'll buy you a little bit of time and say, I always think about Thomas Dolby's She Blinded Me with Science. There we go.
That's literally what I just Googled on my other
No.
screen. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, sorry.
You don't have to come up with another one. You can give 2 votes for that one. It's a good one.
Yeah. Oh, can you think of a song, Minnie? that's AI that
Reminds me of AI. I remember a song that I don't remember what it's called. I think it was called, I have to search it up. I need a second.
hmm, hmm, I don't know. I would have to say that would probably be my first one. Blind to me with science. I don't know, Ken.
Yeah, that's one that we should ask AI.
I was about ready to ask it actually and just say, let's do it. If you were to create a playlist, right?
Yeah.
10 songs that reminded you of AI, what would you put on that list? Okay, we're gonna ask ChatGPT, and then I'm gonna grab the same question and we're gonna ask DeepSeek, because we want to see what DeepSeek has to say too.
And I did
It's legit.
Gemini. I got
Did
Gemini
you?
rolling on it now. So yeah.
And I'm gonna ask Kimmy. What do we think?
Ask Kimmy as well.
I'm gonna ask Kimmy.
Oh, there's some good ones here. Okay,
Okay, let's see.
you go
DeepSeek is
first.
thinking, oh, Technologic Daft Punk. That's a great song.
Yes,
That was
yes,
what I was
that one
thinking.
came up.
That what you're
Yep.
thinking? That's
That's what I
great.
was.
Harder, better, faster, stronger. Anything Daft Punk is going to be legitimate. Let's say that.
Anything Daft Punk. Yes,
It's,
100%.
it can be included. Let's see. Everything in its right place, Radiohead.
Yep.
Let's see. Mr. Roboto, I almost said that earlier. Sticks, that's legit. Electric Feel by MGMT.
That's good.
Paranoid Andrew by Radiohead.
Oh, yep, that was Paranoid Android.
Is that what did I say? Paranoid Android. Yeah. I'm reading. I'm like moved on in my reading.
Muse, The Handler, Unsustainable. There we go.
The Machine. Imagine Dragons. Elliot would be so excited.
Janelle Monáe, Dirty Computer.
Blue Monday by New Order.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'll give it. And Kimmy gave me reasons why I picked songs. It says the
Nice.
synthetic sound and
Oh,
electronic rhythm mirror the digital and programmed aspects of AI.
hmm.
She's Electric by The Killers.
Yep, yep.
The Next Episode by Dre and Snoop Dogg. It's funny. It says, well, not directly about AI, obviously. The futuristic and technological themes in the production evoke a sense of advancement. Okay.
Gemini says Kraftwerk, The Robots, a classic electronic track explicitly about robots, foundational to the genre.
That's funny. This says Hello by Adele. It says an
Huh.
example of AI generated music that mimics human artistry.
Huh. Wait, this was Kimmy?
Yeah, that was Kimmy. Yeah, we've been playing with all kinds of different tools too. It's kind of fun. Oh, there's lots of Daft Punk on these lists.
Okay, this is the one I was trying to think of, and I had to ask Gemini the second time around. Yoshimi battles the pink robots, the flaming lips. That is definitely on my list too. A narrative song about fighting robots with a blend of whimsy and seriousness.
Here you go. I've never heard I Am the Machine by The Cog is About Me.
Okay.
So there you go. I don't know.
And Queen, Machines, touches on
Oh,
the theme of machines taking over or influencing
Hmm.
humanity.
are we allowed to include the Terminator 2 theme?
I would definitely, definitely. And, oh, Flight of the Conchords, one of my
There
favorites.
you go.
Robots.
Right at the there.
We got a full AI playlist now. This is
Yeah.
awesome. We will
Yeah.
share this in the show notes along with the AI use cases. And please join us. Wait, we're gonna have to really like go several levels deep. We'll take this into some depth for building out the playlist with more options for next time. How's that sound? Thank you, both of you, for joining us. Thank you to all of the animals that made their way into this video, as well as children. We welcome one and all.
Special guest, special guest.
That's right.
By Elliot.
All right, we'll call this a day for AI here, there, and everywhere. But we'll be coming back with at least one more episode on this and maybe two because it has been in great demand. So thank you again, Emily and Minnie. And
Thank you.
we will talk
Thank
with
you.
everyone the next time around.